Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. Today we'll be discussing on very interesting topic in continuity with ECG series, that is ST segment changes, introductory part and ST depression. So there will be different changes which will be taking place in an ST changes. We call as a ST changes, and one of the thing is ST depression. So first we'll have a little introductory part and then we'll be going to all the changes which takes place because of ST depression in which disorders. So ST segment depression and STT changes, these two portions. So ST segment introduction, depression and STT changes. Routine we always mention, the more you see, more you know and more you listen, you will remember for lifetime. STT changes are due to repolarization of ventricle, and those changes will interpret what is happening in a myocardium. So ST segment and T wave represents ventricular repolarization. Now just little idea regarding an ischemic heart disease. Ischemic heart disease can present as stable angina, acute coronary syndrome, and acute coronary syndrome can present as STEMI, as ST depression, and when there is an ST depression it can be non-STEMI or we call non-Q wave MI or we call unstable angina. So acute coronary syndrome consists of three groups: STEMI, non-STEMI and unstable angina. In non-STEMI and unstable angina there will be ST depression, while in case of a STEMI there will be ST elevation, or person can directly present as sudden cardiac death. Another way of presentation is because of a chronic damage to the myocardium, we call ischemic cardiomyopathy or dilated cardiomyopathy, or can present as congestive heart failure, or can present as a cardiac arrhythmia in the form of a conduction disturbances, or as a sudden cardiac death. And all this together they are also put into a group we call as a chronic ischemic heart disease or chronic coronary syndrome. One big group which can present as absolutely asymptomatic, and accidentally on an ECG you record the changes which are ischemic changes. So stable angina, acute coronary syndrome can be divided into STEMI. Person can present as sudden cardiac death, as unstable angina, non-STEMI, cardiomyopathy, arrhythmias, congestive heart failure, or as sudden cardiac death. So these are the three big groups we put them into, that is angina, or sometime it can also present as an asymptomatic, and that you can divide into stable angina. There are different names given to other variety also, Prinzmetal angina or variant angina or vasospastic angina or decubitus angina, nocturnal angina, etc. While acute coronary syndrome we divide into three big groups: unstable angina, or also previously it was called pre-infarction syndrome or crescendo angina. Then STEMI we call myocardial infarction, that is transmural infarct or Q wave MI, while non-STEMI is non-transmural or non-Q wave MI or subendocardial infarct. There is one more terminology we call as a MINOCA, that is myocardial infarction non-occlusive coronary artery, myocardial infarction with non-occlusive coronary artery, that is called MINOCA. There can be absolutely asymptomatic infarct we call as a silent MI, or it is also called as a painless MI, and person can present as sudden cardiac death. While a person who has got a chronic ischemic pain, we call as a chronic ischemic heart disease, and in that person can present as congestive heart failure, dilated cardiomyopathy, or also called as a ischemic cardiac dilated cardiomyopathy, or can present as cardiac arrhythmias, or can present as a congestive heart failure, usually chronic congestive heart failure, or there may be acute heart failure on chronic and may also present as sudden cardiac death. So to differentiate these three groups, that is STEMI, non-STEMI and unstable angina. In STEMI you will have a ST elevation with cardiac marker positive. In non-STEMI you will have a ST depression, by and large horizontal ST depression with cardiac marker positive, then we call that as a non-STEMI. And if there is an ST depression which may be symmetrical T wave inversion, we call that as unstable angina with classical history, but biomarkers or cardiac markers will be negative. So this will be very important things to differentiate in an acute coronary syndrome between STEMI, non-STEMI and unstable angina. Chest pain can be ischemic or maybe non-ischemic, or we call non-cardiac. Good number of time person may be asymptomatic, particularly we label a person may be asymptomatic in presence of ischemic heart disease. But in presence of ischemic heart disease, if person is asymptomatic, we usually call that as a silent MI. And very, very rare that person who is having no chest pain and he comes to you with clinical manifestation of ECG changes, meaning those ECG changes are non-specific. Those are very rare. But by and large, whenever there is an ECG changes and person may be asymptomatic and you demonstrate that those ECG changes are because of ischemia, then we label that as a silent MI. But if there is no ischemia and there are STT changes, person is asymptomatic, those we call as a non-specific STT changes. Or person can also present as a chronic ischemic heart disease where in between the period person may be asymptomatic. By and large, ischemic heart disease can present as stable angina or acute coronary syndrome, and we have already mentioned in acute coronary syndrome can present as unstable angina, non-STEMI, STEMI or sudden cardiac death. Ischemic heart disease is diagnosed by a good history, physical examination, and to confirm ECG, and ECG will help you to differentiate between stable angina, unstable angina, non-STEMI and STEMI. But to diagnose and differentiate between angina, unstable angina, non-STEMI and STEMI, you require a good history with ECG and with what we call as a troponin, or we call cardiac biomarkers like troponin or CPK-MB or LDH1 or SGOT. By and large, SGOT is not utilized. The most common biomarker is TP, we call troponin I, or you can utilize CPK-MB or LDH1. But history is absolutely necessary to differentiate between stable angina, unstable angina, non-STEMI and STEMI. It can be further clarified by angiography or CT angio or MRI angio, or you can go for cardiac scan. Even PET scan can be helpful. In ECG, good number of time, even in an STEMI, initially it may be absolutely normal, followed by a hyperacute tall T wave, which is asymmetrical, broad, tall, and person there will be what we call as a dynamic changes, because this tall T wave will be followed by ST segment elevation. So tall T wave will be followed by ST segment elevation. Occasionally, you can have an initiation of STEMI or ischemic heart disease by just inversion of T wave, and then you start getting different changes. So ECG changes, if you read properly, you will be able to differentiate between unstable angina, stable angina, non-STEMI and STEMI. With the help of good history, ECG reading and troponin, you will be able to differentiate between these three groups: unstable, angina, non-STEMI and STEMI. So you require a history, you require ECG finding, and you require biomarker findings. Chest pain with ECG normal can be acute MI. We already mentioned that before. And always remember, a person can be asymptomatic and can have a changes, or person can be symptomatic and ECG can be normal, but still it can be acute MI. And all ST elevation are not STEMI, can be what we call as equivalents or can be mimics. So whenever you get an ST changes, look for whether they are STEMI or they are ischemic, they are equivalents or they are mimics. So history absolutely necessary, EKG, and then we call enzymes, that is CPKMB, troponin, and occasionally you can utilize LDH, LDH1. You can take an advantage of echocardiography, and if echocardiography shows regional wall motion abnormality in the form of akinesia or hypokinesia, it suggests ischemic heart disease. ECG becomes very useful if there is a J point, ST elevation or ST depression. Means if you get the J point changes in the form of ST elevation or ST depression, or there is an ST elevation which is convex or it is flat, and in particularly ST depression, if it is horizontal or if it is down sloping, it is in favor of ischemic heart disease. Morphology becomes very useful in ST depression, that is horizontal and down sloping are in favor of ischemic heart disease, while up sloping are very frequently with tachycardias and other disorders. T wave, we already mentioned that in a hyperacute, it will be tall, broad base, asymmetrical, and the T wave height will be more than good number of time more than R wave, and you will get a dynamic changes. Along with that, if you get a good history, troponin is positive and echo shows regional wall abnormality, it is in favor of an acute MI. And then if this T wave changes or ST change, ST depression or ST elevation are in an anatomical area, or we call ECG family, or we call contiguous slits, then we call that as ischemic heart disease. So ST elevation myocardial infarction ruling out is very, very useful. Now we know that ST segment is normally isoelectric, meaning it is in parallel with PR segment and in parallel with TP segment. So this line and this line will be isoelectric. This is PR segment, this is ST segment, and this is T2P, TP segment. All are in isoelectric line. Anything above will be in favor of either elevation or depression. Above the isoelectric line, ST elevation. Below the isoelectric line, ST depression. So you can have an isoelectric line, normal, elevation, ST elevation, and below the line, ST depression. and depending upon in how many leads and the morphology of a ST elevation or ST depression, and third, amplitude, you will be able to make out whether it is ischemic or non-ischemic. We'll be talking about ST segment elevation, depression in separate lectures. So in this lecture, we'll be talking about ST depression. So if there is more than 1 millimeter of ST segment elevation or 1 millimeter of ST segment depression from isoelectric line, or 2 millimeter of ST segment elevation or depression, definitely abnormal. I'll skip this particular slide. This is what we call as a J point. So if this J point is elevated from a baseline, we'll call J point elevation. And along with that, if ST segment is elevated, we call that as ST elevation. So in a ST elevation, there is always J point elevation, or if J point is depressed along with ST segment depression, that is called J point with ST segment depression, or we call as ST segment depression. So if this elevation is more than 1 millimeter, or if there is the depression more than 1 millimeter, it is always abnormal. Now this is a peculiarity of an ST segment depression. This is called horizontal depression, and you can see that this is almost more than 4 small square. So this is 100% abnormal. This is ST segment depression with down sloping. This is also abnormal. And this is from this J point, ST segment is elevated vertically, almost vertically. We call as vertical. This is down sloping. This is up sloping. So these two are significant. So horizontal and down sloping are in favor of ischemia. So always remember, and if you have got such horizontal sloping and more than 2 small square with severe cardiac chest pain, always suspect subendocardial infarct, or we call it a non-STEMI. And it is also one of the signs of reciprocal changes in STEMI. We'll be going through all those things. If you come across ST depression with T wave changes, meaning new horizontal or downsloping ST segment, which is more than 0.5 millimeter or 2 contiguous slits, and along with that there is a T wave inversion which is more than 1 millimeter in a 2 contiguous slits with prominent R wave, and R wave is taller than S wave. This is significant, and particularly if it is in V2 and V3, it is one thing which is in favor of what we call as a true posterior wall infarct. So if you get that changes in V2, V3, it is a reciprocal changes of a true posterior wall MI. Also, if you get an ST segment depression with T wave upright, means if you get in V2, V3, V4, ST depression with T wave upright, it becomes a D Winter sign. And if you get an ST depression with symmetrical T wave inversion in V2, V3, V4, it becomes Whelan's sign type B. So do remember this changes in V2, V3 and V4. So if there is a J point depression more than 0.5 millimeter, we almost say that more than 1 millimeter, 0.5 or more than 1 millimeter in V2, V3, then it is quite significant. I've already mentioned 2 or 3 conditions. If followed by a horizontal or downsloping ST segment after J point depression, and if it is more than 2 small square, except in lead AVR, it is significant, and it will be going more in favor of what we call as a non-STEMI. Sometimes you come across false positive ST depression without disease, we call mimics, will be false positive. False negative means disease without ST depression, and if there is no chest pain and there are changes of ischemia we call as a silent myocardial ischemia. So do remember this terminology: false positive, false negative, and silent MI. So ST segment depression is very useful. You should understand that ST segment depression more than one small square, or we call 1 millimeter, in a two consecutive lead is significant. And then you have to correlate with T wave changes or presence of R wave, etc. So J point depression with ST segment changes is very, very important. So now once you have identified ST depression, you have to look at the magnitude, you have to look at the distribution, you have to look at the morphology, and is there any other ST elevation in other leads. This is absolutely necessary to find out whether these are reciprocal changes or these are other associated findings. So ST depression is very common in non-STEMI, or we call non-Q wave MI, or non-transmural MI, or subendocardial infarct. Also you can come across ST depression in angina or in unstable angina. So these are ischemic groups. And you can also see reciprocal changes in acute MI. This will be non-ischemic like digoxin effect, LVH, RVH, and also in case of left bundle branch block, right bundle branch block. In hypokalemia, where you will get a ST depression with T wave almost becoming flat and appearance of U wave. In acute pulmonary embolism, you will come across S1Q3 T3 inversion. So that will be in a pulmonary embolism. And if there is an RVH with strain, then also you will have an ST depression with or without T wave inversion. So most important part is these three, that is non-STEMI, in unstable angina, and reciprocal changes in acute MI. And third, don't forget, if you get ST changes, depression in V1, V2 with R wave prominent more than S wave, always suspect posterior wall MI. So this is the another condition. Now to differentiate between non-STEMI and unstable angina is very useful. In non-STEMI you will have a troponin positive, and in an unstable angina troponin will be negative. Most important part. Otherwise almost both will look alike. And if there is a left bundle branch block and now person develops acute MI or person develops ischemic episode, you will have to use Sakurubasa criteria, which we have already discussed before. So, and I have already uploaded Sakurubasa criteria. So do go through that. And there is another pathology we call as RVMI. In an RVMI, in lead V1, you will get ST changes, and you might get also ST changes in what we call as AVR, that is right ventricular leads. So in AVR and V1, if you get the changes in the form of a ST elevation, where AVR is elevated more than V1, and simultaneously you get an ST depression in other leads, multiple leads, do think of RVMI. So we'll be going through some of those. So ST depression can be there in case of an non-STEMI, or you can have as a reciprocal changes in case of an STEMI, that is reciprocal changes in case of a STEMI, or it can be because of unstable angina. You can also get in tachycardia, digoxin toxicity, hypokalemia, RBBB, LBBB, RVH, LVH, etc. So do keep it in mind other than ischemia and infarction. As far as ischemia and infarction is concerned, non-STEMI, reciprocal changes in STEMI, unstable angina, true posterior wall MI, and RVMI. And also in presence of left bundle branch block, you can utilize that ST segment changes, that is particularly depression, or we call discordant ST segment changes. you can utilize in Sagar-Baza criteria. So non-STEMI ST segment changes indicates high risk, while reciprocal changes in STEMI in opposite leads, or you can get as a De Winter sign, or you can get in a person with left main branch, or we call as LMCA equivalence. So do keep this thing in mind. They will suggest that person has got tight occlusion, De Winter sign also as a part of what we call as, even in case of a valence sign type B. So also ST depression with T wave inversion, symmetrical T wave inversion in valence syndrome, dip symmetrical or biphasic T wave in precordial lead, particularly V2, V3. In De Winter, it will be ST depression with first initial T wave depression with elevation. We call as hyperacute T wave. That will suggest De Winter syndrome. And that will be in a V2, V3, V4. Both of these are due to LAD occlusion, or even there can be LMC. You can see here there is an ST elevation in AVR. There is also ST elevation in V1 with ST depression in lead 1, lead 2, lead 3 also. You can see in V2, V3, V4, V5, V6. When you get such, and you can see this is almost horizontal depression, do suspect ischemia. And now if you see here, there is upsloping. This is less likely to be ischemia. This is rate dependent ST depression. Now we have already discussed as far as morphology is concerned. Upsloping, less likely to be ischemic. Downsloping and horizontal are more in favor of ischemia. So horizontal, very peculiar, or downsloping, more in favor of ischemia. Always look for those signs. You can get in a non-STEMI, you will have a ST depression. In unstable angina, it will be negative. Troponin will be negative. But in a non-STEMI, troponin will be positive. That will be the easy difference to differentiate between unstable angina and non-STEMI. So history is very important. And when in a non-STEMI, usually when it heals, there will be no Q wave. So it is also labeled as non-Q wave MI. So ST depression persistent even after the chest pain gets relief. Do keep it in mind, it is most likely to be either unstable angina or non-STEMI. So non-STEMI, before injury, you will have a normal ECG. Once there is an ischemia, you will have a ST depression with T wave inversion. After infarction, ST depression, and now T wave will become inverted. And then once there is a healing, ST returns to the baseline, but the T wave may remain inverted and there will be no Q wave appearance. So you can see here that in V3, V4, V5 and V6, there is almost horizontal ST depression, more than 1 millimeter. Also there is an ST depression in lead 2, lead 3, and even AVF. Even you can see there is a little ST depression with little downsloping in lead 1 AVF. So this is almost in favor of, and if the person is having troponin positive, this will be non-STEMI. And if troponin is negative, then this will be in favor of unstable angina. So this is showing you that inferior and anterolateral wall, right from V2 up to V6, there is an ST changes. in the form of ST depression. As far as reciprocal changes is concerned, if you see a posterior wall infarct, say this is a simple example. In posterior wall infarct, in V7, V8, V9, you will have a ST segment elevation. Normally we don't take this. Now if we get a mirror image in anterior leads, that is V2, V3, that is small R wave. Usually we say R wave is taller than S wave. And if there is an ST depression with T wave inversion, this is a reciprocal changes of true posterior wall MI. So as far as reciprocal changes is concerned, reciprocal changes are in opposite lead. So lead 2, lead 3 AVF is just opposite of lead 1 AVL and chase leads. So in a lead 1 AVL, if you get ST elevation, you will have ST depression in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. If you get ST elevation in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF, you can have a reciprocal changes in lead 1, AVL and chase leads. And this is the very good chart showing you in which lead you will have a reciprocal changes. If you get ST elevation, these are slides with ST elevation. So V1, V2, if there is ST elevation, you will get reciprocal changes in V7, V8 and V9. In V3, V4, you will get in V8 and V9. Opposite of that, if you get reciprocal changes in V7, V8 and V9, you will have a reciprocal changes in V1, V2 and V3. In lateral wall, V5, V6, if you get an ST elevation, by and large we don't get any reciprocal changes in any specific leads. In a high lateral, that is in lead 1 and AVL, if you get an ST elevation, you will have a reciprocal changes in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. In inferior wall, it will be just opposite, that is you will get in lead 1 and AVL. If there is a right ventricular infarct, or we call RVMI, there will be ST elevation in lead 3 will be more than ST elevation in lead 2, and you will get a reciprocal changes in V1 lead or AVR lead. And if you take the ECG in V4R, V5R and V6R, you will have what we called as ST segment elevation. While in V2 lead, you will have a reciprocal ST depression. So if with ST elevation in lead 3 more than lead 2, and if you get ST depression in V2, it is in favor of a RVMI. We already mentioned that if you get a ST elevation in V7, V8, V9, you will have a ST depression and R wave taller than S wave in V1, V2 and V3. And if there is an ST elevation in AVR, by and large, we don't get any STT changes in other lead. But if there is an ST elevation in AVR and there is an ST elevation in V1, and simultaneously you got AVR taller than ST elevation of AVR taller than V1, and you got ST depression in multiple leads, this is in favor of RVMI. So these reciprocal changes are very, very important. You should try to find out whether these are reciprocal changes or they are due to STEMI, non-STEMI, reciprocal changes, or it is because of unstable angina. Here you can see that there is anterior wall infarct, that is ST elevation in V2, V3, V4, V5, and you got a reciprocal changes in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. You also got an ST elevation in lead 1 and AVF. So this is peculiar, right? So these are reciprocal changes. That arrow shows you ST elevation. Here you can see that there is an ST elevation in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF, while you got a reciprocal changes in right from V2 onwards up to V6. I'll be going little faster so you can understand very nicely. And you are also having a reciprocal changes in lead 1 and AVL because they are reciprocal to lead 2, lead 3 and AVL. Now, in case of a posterior wall MI, you will have a reciprocal changes in V1, V2 and V3. You can see there is an ST depression in this, and you will have a ST elevation in lid 2, lid 3 and AVF. Now, if in this lids, means if you get an inferior wall infarct, and with that you get reciprocal changes in V1, V2 and V3, and where R wave, there is a small R wave, it is not indicative of anterior wall changes. So always look for posterior wall MI. Now what you are supposed to do, you will take V7, V8 and V9, and if in V7, V8 and V9 you get ST elevation, these changes are reciprocal changes, and now you will label that this is inferior plus posterior. So inferior posterior wall MI. If you get only reciprocal changes in V1, V2 and V3, and there are almost no changes in lid 2, lid 3 and AVF, it will be going for pure posterior wall MI or true posterior wall MI. So you can see here, that is, you have got V3, V4, R. This is V4R, this is V1R, V2R, V3R. You can see right from V1R, V4R, V5R, V6R, there is an ST elevation. And lid 3, ST segment is elevated more than lid 2. Always suspect these are reciprocal changes which were seen in chest lids, and this will be more in favor of what we call as a RVMI. RVMI, inferior wall with RVMI. Here you can see that ST segment in lid 3 is elevated more than lid 2. You are having reciprocal changes in V2 and V3. Always keep it in mind, and plus you can see that there is even ST elevation in V5, V6. This will be lateral wall MI, and these are changes of posterior wall V2 and V3, and there is an ST elevation more in lid 3 as compared to lid 2. So there is an inferior, posterior wall reciprocal changes, and this is lateral wall, inferior, lateral and posterior wall. Inferior wall reciprocal changes, and there is a lateral wall. So reciprocal changes of ST segment depression is because of posterior wall. You can see here ST elevation in lid 1, lid 2, or AVL. There is an ST depression in lid 2, lid 3. So ST depression in inferior lids, ST elevation in lateral lids, that is lid 1 and AVL. Do keep it in mind, and simultaneously you can see a tall T wave, high lateral wall STEMI, high lateral wall STEMI. ST depression in V2, V3, and there is a tall R wave. Do keep it in mind, posterior wall MI, and see simultaneously there are no ST elevation in lid 2 and lid 3. Whenever you get this, this will be more in favor of a true posterior wall MI, only posterior wall MI. There is no inferior. ST depression in inferior lateral. You can see this is lateral, lid 1, V5, V6, V4, V5, V6. Plus you have got even a ST changes in V3 also, and in inferior also, lid 2, lid 3 AVF. So inferior lateral. Plus simultaneously you can see there is a changes in AVR and V1, and in AVR ST elevation is more than V1. So when you get an ST elevation in AVR more than V1, always suspect RVMI, and that will be left main equivalent. It is also called as left main equivalent. So LMCA occlusion. If there is a persistent ST depression, do keep it in mind, two possibility, unstable angina or non-STEMI. So lid 2, lid 3, AVF, persistent ST depression, and you can see a tall T wave in V2, even in V3. So keep that thing in mind. This could be non-STEM. Here, because of atrial fibrillation, there is a rapid ventricular rate, and in a rapid ventricular rate, you can see that ST segment is upsloping. This is not ischemia. So persistent ST depression after restoring the sinus rate or presence of chest pain with tachycardia. Always look at the first ECG, compare with the first ECG. Elevated cardiac biomarkers, always do keep it in mind. It can be ischemic. And patient with a multiple cardiac risk factor with ST depression, you should be aware of it and observe, close observation and repeat ECGs. I've already shown this slide before in T wave. If there's a T wave inversion, which is symmetrical inversion, it will be more in favor of ischemia. Asymmetrical inversion is more in favor of a strain pattern. Biphasic T wave inversion, first initial upright followed by a second negative, is in favor of again ischemia. And hyperacute T wave, always you have to think of STEMI. After ruling out hyperkalemia, and also do think of variant angina. So this difference I've already discussed in T wave changes. So I'm keeping this slide for a while. You can go through. We have already discussed in detail in T wave chapter. So you can go through. These are all the peculiarity you have to look for in a T wave. So in a hyperkalemia, you will have a tall T wave as well as in case of a hyperacute T wave in STEMI. So this is a difference what you will come across. A biphasic T wave again is of importance. We have already mentioned that if you get initial positive followed by second negative is always in favor of ischemia. And this is a very common sign in valence type A, while first negative followed by second positive is usually suggestive of hypokalemia. But if you get an ST depression with initial T wave negative and then you get a tall T wave, and if you get these changes in V2, V3 and V4, it is suggestive of a De Winter sign. So do remember valence sign and De Winter sign. There is also something called as a pseudo normalization of T wave, that if previous ECG was showing a STT changes and during a acute chest pain or persistent chest pain, if those becomes normal, that is called pseudo normalization. Do consider that as pathological and think of. So inverted T wave is of great importance. So inverted T wave is important in case of ischemia, infarction, most important. You can see also in case of tachycardia, digoxin effect, hypokalemia, LBBB, RBBB, RVH, LVH, and also you can see a deep asymmetrical T wave inversion in an intracranial hemorrhage. Also in case of a raised intracranial pressure or subarachnoid hemorrhage. So do keep that thing in mind. Also you can have a T wave inversion in LIT3, that is in acute pulmonary embolism. Also you can get a persistent juvenile T wave pattern. Sometimes you can see those also. So if you see a normally inverted T wave in AVR V1 and V2 and sometime in case of LIT3, so those are considered as normal. But if they are very deep enough, then those are pathological. So T wave inversion is of importance in hypokalemia, secondary repolarization like LVH, RVH, left bundle branch block, left right bundle branch block. You can also have inversion in pulmonary embolism. There can be memory T wave, which will be after recovery. A person has recovered and then still you get an T wave inversion because of memory T waves. You can get in case of intracranial hemorrhage, we call as a cerebral T waves. And in case of a young children's, if there is a persistent of juvenile T wave pattern, it is non-pathological. But in case of STEMI, non-STEMI and chronic coronary syndrome, it is always pathological. So T-wave inversion in an evolving AMI is of significance. You can see here there is a T-wave inversion along with ST. This we call as STT changes. There is an ST elevation with T-wave inversion. Again, you can see here there is a deep, broad, asymmetrical T-wave inversion. This is a giant T-wave inversion. You can see here this is valence sign. First upright followed by second negative. This is valence sign A, type A. This is again valence sign type A, suggestive of LAD tight occlusion. De Winter sign will be ST depression in V2, V3, may be seen in a V4 also, but more common in V2, V3. And then you get an tall T wave. This is De Winter sign. You can see again ST depression and then there is a tall T wave. De Winter sign, hyperacute T wave. Always keep that in mind. If you get a deep symmetrical T wave inversion, suspect in absence of ischemic pain, and if a person has got neurological deficit, suspect intracranial hemorrhage. But if there are other ST changes, say there is an ST changes in lid 3, AVF, this has to be ischemic. You can see in lid 2, lid 3 and AVF. These are ischemic changes. So this will be in favor of valence sign B. Tight LAD occlusion. So you can have a ST depression apart from myocardial ischemia in hypokalemia, strain pattern, digoxin effect, supraventricular tachycardia, and atrial fibrillation with rapid ventricular rate. So in hypokalemia, you will have a flattening of the T wave, ST depression, and appearance of U wave. So T wave inversion, prominent U wave, long QT, and ST segment will be depressed. You have to combine all this. So ST segment depression, T wave is becoming inverted and it is becoming flat, and then you will have appearance of U wave. So once you have got an ST segment flat, almost T wave has disappeared and this is U wave. This is severe hypokalemia. And this will be from here. Ideally, we calculate up to here. This is QT interval, but this is not ideally QT. U wave has already started. So QT is prolonged. You will have a U wave which will be almost like T wave. So always keep that thing in mind. And this can end up with torsades de pointes and ventricular fibrillation, and person can have high mortality. So you can see here there is a T wave. Sorry, this is T wave, this is U wave, and then there is a P wave. So T, U, and P wave. T, U, and P wave. So if you see this, hypokalemia. Again, you can see here ST depression, almost T wave is inverted, and this is a U wave. So that is severe hypokalemia. You can see here again there is an ST depression, and almost this T and U wave is combined together. This is U wave. So this is severe ST depression with T wave inverted and U wave appearance. And good number of times hypokalemia is associated with hypomagnesemia. So whenever you correct potassium, simultaneously also correct magnesium. And because of that T wave inversion and hypokalemia, there is always a long QT. And we measure a false long QT because of U wave. In LVH, RVH, LBBB, RBBB, and even in ARVD, you will have a secondary ST changes. You can see here in RBBB, in V1, you will have ST changes, which will be reciprocal changes to QRS complex, or we call discordant changes to QRS. So you will have a changes in V1, V2, where you will have a broad QRS, RS, RDS pattern, Even in AVR also you will have a small r followed by S, and then second R wave will be taller and T wave will be inverted. ST segment will be depressed and T wave inverted, or we sometimes call ST segment will be down sloping and T wave inverse. While in a left bundle branch block you will have just other way round. In lead 1, AVL and V5, V6, you will have a broad QRS, RS, RDS pattern, ST segment down sloping with T wave inverse. I am going little faster. All this we have discussed before. Now, ST segment changes plus T wave changes in LVH means you will have a LVH criteria. QRS complex will be narrow. This QRS complex is narrow. Plus you have got an ST segment. ST segment either depressed or down sloping and T wave inversion. This is LVH with strain. You can see here, this is LVH with severe strain pattern. You can see a symmetrical T wave inversion, and there is an LVH criteria. You can clearly see even in lead 1. Lead 1 AVL, you can see a deep S wave in V1, and you have got a very tall R wave in V4, V5, V6, and you have got a symmetrical T wave inversion, LVH with strain pattern. ST depression. This is RVH with strain. I don't go into detail. You have got an RVH criteria. V1 R wave is tall more than 7 millimeter, and you have got an ST depression with T wave inversion. ST depression with T wave, asymmetrical T wave inversion, goes in favor of RVH with strain. ST changes. Again you can see here, V1 is showing you tall R wave, down sloping ST segment with asymmetrical T wave inversion. This is again RVH with strain pattern. You can see in V1 and even in AVR. R wave is taller and you have got a down sloping ST segment with T wave inversion. In arrhythmogenic also, there is, you can see a small notch here. This is epsilon wave. Along with epsilon wave, you have got an ST segment down sloping with T wave inversion. That is arrhythmogenic RV cardiomyopathy. That is ARVD, or you call ARVC. And in V1 you will have epsilon wave. That is very peculiar. And you can see in V2, V3 also, there is a asymmetrical T wave inversion. That is in favor of what we call as a ARVD. In a pace rhythm also, because usually the pacing is done in a RV, you will have a pacemaker spike followed by a left bundle branch block pattern. And being a left bundle branch block pattern, you will have a negative QRS with ST segment elevation. So that will be very peculiar. And in lead 1 and AVL, you can see that there is an ST segment down sloping with T wave inversion. And this will be very peculiar. ST depression in left precordial leads, while in the right precordial lead, you will have a ST elevation. That is V1, V2, you will have a ST elevation, while in V5, V6, you will have a ST depression, because you will have a upright QRS complex. While in decoxing toxicity, actually decoxing effect, usually the word utilized is reverse tick mark or reverse check or hockey stick mark, hockey stick type of changes, or it is also called as reverse tick mark, or reverse check, or hockey stick mark. And this particular type of a slope is peculiar like this mustache. And this is a very good sign in case of a mirror image of a correction mark. So it is described as digitalis effect, not digitalis toxicity. So whenever you get that, this is called sagging of ST segment depression. Sagging, curved like this. So this is curved like this. So that is a mustache sign. So digoxin, that is sagging of ST segment, particularly in V5, V6 and lead 1 AVL, very, very important in lateral leads, that is lead 1 AVL and V5, V6. And by and large in this, you will have a short QT interval. It is a sign of digoxin effect, or we call that as a sign of digoxin toxicity. You will have to measure the digoxin level in blood. Then rate dependent ST segment changes. If there is a tachycardia, you will have a upsloping. So that will be rate dependent. So in a tachycardia, usually you will have upsloping of ST segment. In AVRT, particularly orthodromic AVRT, you will have again stress-induced myocardial ischemia, and that is upsloping ST segment. So in a supraventricular tachycardia also, you will have a upsloping ST segment, STT changes, and as soon as the tachycardia subsides, this STT changes will disappear. So those are called as rate dependent STT changes. In case of an acute pulmonary embolism, you will have a S1 in lead 1, you will have a Q3 in lead 3 and T wave inversion in lead 3. So that's why we call S1 Q3 T3 pattern. And along with that, you will have a RVH with strain, means inner right side lead, that is right precordial lead. You will have a ST depression with T wave inversion, and sometimes you can see even a RBBB pattern. That will be peculiar in case of a pulmonary embolism. Whenever you get an ST segment changes, either elevated or depression, and along with the T wave, we have already covered majority of those. So those we call as STT changes. So STT changes is always in favor of ischemia. We have already mentioned everything. These are all changes of STEMI and non-STEMI. We have discussed before. So whenever you get a T wave changes, in absence of ischemia, we label that as a non-specific T and ST changes. So ST depression you can come across in hypokalemia, digoxin effect, secondary repolarization, atrial fibrillation with fast ventricular rate, supraventricular tachycardia. Do keep it in mind, these are in all this, they are non-specific changes. Means they do not signify ischemia. But if they are along with non-STEMI or with STEMI, they are of significance. So ST depression, always go for clinical presentation, presence or absence of ST segment elevation or depression, or if there is an hyperacute T wave, morphology of ST depression, magnitude and associated ECG sign. I'll be going little faster. So if person has got classical ischemic pain, which is suggestive of an ischemic heart disease, always look for ischemia. If there is ST depression along with ST elevation and there is an ST depression in a reciprocal lead, this is reciprocal changes. In true post-oval MI, you will have an ST depression in V1, V2, V3 with R wave, and you will have an ST elevation in V7, V8 and V9. In LM equivalent, you will have a ST segment elevation in AVR and V1. This will be LM equivalent, and in other lead you will have a reciprocal changes. In D Winter signs, V2, V3 will have an ST depression with tall T wave, that is D Winter sign. And in valence sign, you will have a first initial T wave upright, followed by second negative T wave, we call biphasic T wave. In V2, V3, it will be valence sign type A, and if there is an ST depression with symmetrical T wave inversion, in V2, V3, V4, it will be valence sign type B. So as far as morphology is concerned, horizontal and down sloping in favor of ischemia, up sloping by and large majority of the time non-ischemic. Sagging of ST segment will be in favor of digoxin effect. Magnitude of ST depression means higher the magnitude, more in favor of ischemia. So if the ST segment depression is more than 2 small square, it is invariably in favor of ischemia. If there is a pathological Q wave, it is in favor of non-STEMI or in favor of STEMI. If along with ST depression there is a T wave inversion, again in favor of a non-STEMI or in favor of STEMI, if there is an ST elevation. If there is a voltage criteria fitting with LVH and RVH, then it is more in favor of secondary repolarization, that is LVH with strain or RVH with strain. Or if there is a left bundle branch block, right bundle branch block with ST depression, down sloping depression with T wave inversion, it will be in favor of left bundle branch block or right bundle branch block. And if there is a prominent U wave along with ST depression and T wave inversion, in favor of hypokalemia. And if there is a long QT with ST depression, it is again in favor of hypokalemia. If there is a supraventricular tachycardia and there is a upsloping, it is in favor of ST changes with supraventricular tachycardia. And if there is irregular QRS complex RR interval, there is no P wave at all, or there is atrial fibrillation with fast ventricular rate and ST segment is showing you changes, that is in favor of again non-specific changes. So I end my lecture here. હવે પંખો કરી દે. So I feel this lecture will be very helpful to you. Thank you very much for taking out time. I know that your time is valuable and I appreciate that for spending some of the time with me. This will be very, very helpful to you in your everyday practice, and particularly to the interns, or when you go to the practice and if you are working in an ICU, it will be very, very beneficial. If you like this lecture, please press button like and subscribe, and you can share with your friends also. See you in next lecture.